Eleisunames hothios hopatiro pantocrator penegatrias eleisunames abshoisef notin tenigom shopinimen aminge and monantanen overthos genenethlepsis nemnen hokegevilerok. O Lord, make us worthy to pray thankfully. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation. The prophecies of the first hour of the Tuesday eve of the Holy Pascha, may its blessings be with us all. Amen. From Zechariah the prophet, may his blessings be with us all. Amen. In the 8th month of the 2nd year of Darius, the word of the Lord came to Zechariah the son of Berechiah, the son of Iddo the prophet, saying, The Lord has been very angry with your fathers. Therefore say to them, Thus says the Lord of hosts, Return to me, says the Lord of hosts, and I will return to you, says the Lord of hosts. Do not be like your fathers, to whom the former prophets preached, saying, Thus says the Lord of hosts, Turn now from your evil ways and your evil deeds. But they did not hear nor heed me, says the Lord. Your fathers, where are they? And the prophets, do they live forever? Yet surely my words and my statutes, which I commanded my servants the prophets, did they not overtake your fathers? And they answered and said, As the Lord Almighty determined to deal with us according to our ways and according to our practices, thus he dealt with us. Glory be to the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Choice nine, alleluia, genevran, meviot, nemepshirin, embebnevmath, oeb, onotian, owotamin, doxabatri, ke eo, ke ageo, nevmati, kenin, ke ai, ke stosion, astonionon, amin. The praise of the first hour of the eve of the Tuesday of the Holy Pascha, may its blessings be with us all. Amen. O Lord, make us worthy to pray thankfully. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, power, and glory, forever and ever. Amen. Kyrie eleison, hoc teti gom, nembion, embismon, embiamai, shainem, Manuel benoti benoro, hoc teti gom, nembion, embismon, embiamai, shainem, bashoisis, os per Christus, hoc teti gom, on embismon, embiamai, shainem,
Teti Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin and Manu Infinoti Pen Oro Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Peshoisi Sos Bethestos Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin
Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Emmanuel Ben Noti Ben Oro Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Peshoisi Sos Bethestos Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin
Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Emmanuel Infinoti Ben Oro Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Peshoisi Sos Bethestos Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin
Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Emmanuel Ben Noti Ben Oro Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Peshoisi Sos Bethestos Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin
Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Emmanuel Infinoti Ben Oro Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Peshoisi Sos Bethestos Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin
Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Emmanuel Ben Noti Ben Oro Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Peshoisi Sos Bethestos Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin
Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Emmanuel Infinoti Ben Oro Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Peshoisi Sos Bethestos Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin
Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Emmanuel Ben Noti Ben Oro Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Peshoisi Sos Bethestos Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin
Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Emmanuel Infinoti Ben Oro Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin Peshoisi Sos Bethestos Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Yamin
Sisos Bieferestos Tetigon Lempion and Pismon and Piamai Shine Amin.
To you is the power and glory and blessing and honor forever. Amen. Emmanuel
Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen.
Salmos tuam avint pam gainem pam en penalty. Evenoti entita avo Theia Tahel pisa Evnoti. إغار انثوف ببنوتي Otir Arif of إنك im enhu
Και πέτω κάτω εξαιρετήν ημάς, τις ακροάσε ως το Άγιο Ευαγγέλιο, Κύριον και των Θεών εμών, ή κατεύσομεν σοφέιο και ακούσομεν το Άγιο Ευαγγέλιο.
Ο αναγνώσεις volgen pi evangelion ethoem katan lucan ageo.
From the Psalms of our teacher David, the prophet and king. May his blessing be with us all, amen. In God is my salvation and my glory, the rock of my strength, and my refuge is in God. He early is my rock and my salvation. He is my defense. I shall not be greatly moved. Lord, have pity and mercy on us, and make us worthy to listen to your holy gospel. A chapter from the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, the evangelist and pure disciple. May his blessings
Be with
said to him, Lord, are there few who are saved? And he said to them, strive to enter through the narrow gate, for many, I say to you, will seek to enter and will not be able. When once the master of the house has risen up and shut the door, and you begin to stand outside and knock at the door, saying, Lord, Lord, open for us. And he will answer and say to you, I do not know you, where you are from. Then you'll begin to say, we ate and drank in your presence, and you taught in our streets. But he will say, I tell you, I do not know you, where you are from. Depart from me, all you workers of iniquity. There will be weeping and gnashing of teeth when you see Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and all the prophets in the kingdom of God, and yourselves thrust out. They will come from the east and the west, from the north and the south, and sit down in the kingdom of God. And indeed there are last who will be first, and there are first who will be last.
Glory to you. Lord.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the one God. Amen. The prophecy of the third hour of the eve of the Tuesday of the Holy Pascha. May its blessings be with us all. Amen.
The burden of the word of the Lord to Israel by Malachi. I have loved you, says the Lord. Yet you say, in what way have you loved us? Was not Esau Jacob's brother, says the Lord? Yet Jacob I have loved, but Esau I have hated, and laid waste his mountains and his heritage for the jackals of the wilderness. Even though Edom has said, we have been impoverished, but we will return and build the desolate places. Thus says the Lord of hosts, they may build, but I will throw down. They shall be called the territory of wickedness, and the people against whom the Lord will have indignation forever. Your eyes shall see, and you shall say, the Lord is magnified beyond the border of Israel. A son honors his father, and a servant his master. If then I am the father, where is my honor? And if I am a master, where is my reverence? Says the Lord of hosts to you priests who despise my name. Yet you say, in what way have we despised your name? You offer defiled food on my altar, but say, in what way have we defiled you? By saying, the table of the Lord is contemptible. And when you offered the blind as a sacrifice, is it not evil? And when you offer the lame and sick, is it not evil? Offer it then to your governor. Would he be pleased with you? Would he accept you favorably, says the Lord of hosts? But now entreat God's favor, that he may be gracious to us. While this is being done by your hands, will he accept you favorably, says the Lord of hosts. Glory be to the Holy Trinity, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Choice nine, alleluia, chenevran, emeviot, nemepshirin, embebnevmaith, oeb, onotian, owotamin, doxabatri, ke eo, ke ageob nevmati, kenin, ke ai, ke estosion, aston ionon, amin. The praise of the third hour of the eve of the Tuesday of the Holy Pascha, may its blessings be with us all, amen. O Lord, make us worthy to pray thankfully. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever. Kyrie eleison, thok tetigom, nembio, nembismon,
Amai shainem Manuel penoti penoro Thok tetigom nembio nembesmon nembiamai shainem in pashoi sisos pe Christos Thok tetigom nembio nembesmon nembiamai shainem
Tetigom nempio nempesmon nempiamai shainem in Emmanuel penoti pen oro. Tetigom nempio nempesmon nempiamai shainem in Pashois Isos per Christos. Tetigom nempio nempesmon nempiamai shainem in
Tetigom nempio nembesmon nembiamai shainem in Emmanuel penoti pen oro tetigom nempio nembesmon nembiamai shainem in Pashois Isos per Christos tetigom nempio nembesmon nembiamai shainem in
Tetigom nempio nempesmon nempiamai shainem in Emmanuel penoti pen oro. Tetigom nempio nempesmon nempiamai shainem in Pashois Isos per Christos. Tetigom nempio nempesmon nempiamai shainem in
tetigom nempio nembesmon nembiamai shainem in Emmanuel penoti tetigom nempio nembesmon nembiamai shainem in Pashois Isos pe Christos tetigom nempio nembesmon nembiamai shainem in
Tetigom nempio nempesmon nempiamai shainem in Emmanuel penoti pen oro. Tetigom nempio nempesmon nempiamai shainem in Pashois Isos per Christos. Tetigom nempio nempesmon nempiamai shainem in
tetigom nempio nempesmon nembiamai shainem in Emmanuel penoti tetigom nempio nempesmon nembiamai shainem in Pashois Isos pe Christos tetigom nempio nempesmon nembiamai shainem in
Tetigom nempio nempesmon nempiamai shainem in Emmanuel penoti pen oro. Tetigom nempio nempesmon nempiamai shainem in Pashois Isos per Christos. Tetigom nempio nempesmon nempiamai shainem in
tetigom nempio nempesmon nembiamai shainem in Emmanuel penoti pen oro tetigom nempio nempesmon nembiamai shainem in Pashois Isos pe Christos tetigom nempio nempesmon nembiamai shainem in
Propheticum nempi o nempus nempi amai shine amin menu in noti pen oro. Propheticum nempi o nempus nempi amai shine amin pashois Iisus pie Christos. Propheticum nempi o nempus nempi amai shine amin.
To you is the power and glory and blessing and honor forever. Amen. Emmanuel, our God and our King. To you is the power and glory and blessing and honor forever. Amen. My Lord Jesus Christ, to you is the power and glory and blessing and honor forever. Amen.
Propheticum nempi o nempi esmonen pi amahi shaine amine menu impenoti pen oro. Propheticum nempi o nempi esmonen pi amahi shaine amin pashoisi sos pie Christos. Propheticum nempi o nempi esmonen pi amai shaine amin.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil, through Jesus Christ our Lord. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, for ever and ever. Amen.
Psalm of David. Consider and he my God. En la ten ma eyes lest I slay. If the sleep of death I have trusted in your mercy. My heart shall read. Rejoice, in your salvation.
Este sacrasios to ag evangelio, Kyrion kiton theonemon, egatefsomen sofeia, ortheacosomen to agio.
Anagnosis Gen pi evangelion ethoeb Katalukan ageo
From the Psalms of our teacher, David the prophet and king, may his blessings be with us all. Amen. Consider and hear me, O Lord, my God. Enlighten my eyes, lest I sleep the sleep of death. But I have trusted in your mercy. My heart shall rejoice in your salvation. Lord, have pity and mercy on us, and make us worthy to listen to your holy gospel. A chapter from the Holy Gospel according to Saint Luke, the evangelist and pure disciple. May his blessing
Be with us.
On that very day, some Pharisees came, saying to him, "Get out and depart from here, for Herod wants to kill you." And he said to them, "Go tell that fox, behold, I cast out demons and perform cures today and tomorrow, and the third day I shall be perfected. Nevertheless, I must journey today, tomorrow, and the day following, for it cannot be that a prophet should perish outside of Jerusalem. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, the one who kills the prophets and stones those who are sent to her. How often I wanted to gather your children together, as a hen gathers her brood under her wings. But you were not willing. See, your house is left to you desolate. And assuredly I say to you, you shall not see me until the time comes when you say, Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.
Glory to you, Lord.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the one God. Amen. The prophecy of the 6th hour of the eve of the Tuesday of the Holy Pascha. May its blessings be with us all. Amen.
From Hosea the prophet, may his blessings be with us all. Amen. Though you, Israel, play the harlot, let not Judah offend. Do not come up to Gilgal, nor go up to Beth-aven, nor swear an oath, saying, As the Lord lives. For Israel is stubborn like a stubborn calf. Now the Lord will let them forage like a lamb in open country. Ephraim is joined to idols, let him alone. Their drink is rebellion, they commit harlotry continually. Her rulers dearly love dishonor. The wind has wrapped her up in its wings, and they shall be ashamed because of their sacrifices. Hear this, O priests. Take heed, O house of Israel. Give ear, O house of the king. For yours is the judgment, because you have been a snare to Mizpah, and a net spread on Tabor. The revolters are deeply involved in slaughter, though I rebuke them all. I know Ephraim and Israel is not hidden from me. For now, O Ephraim, you commit harlotry. Israel is defiled. They do not direct their deeds towards turning to their God. For the spirit of harlotry is in their midst, and they do not know the Lord. The pride of Israel testifies to his face. Therefore Israel and Ephraim stumble in their iniquity. Judah also stumbles with them. With their flocks and herds they shall go to seek the Lord, but they will not find him, for he has withdrawn himself from them. They have dealt treacherously with the Lord, for they have begotten pagan children. Now a new moon shall devour them and their heritage. Glory be to the Holy Trinity, the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit.
Choice nine, alleluia, Genevran, Meviot, Nemepshir, Nembebnevmath, Oab, Unotian, Uotamin, Doxabatri, Ke Eo, Ke Ageob, Nevmati, Kenin, Ke Ai, Ke Estos, Ionostonion, Amin. The praise of the 6th hour of the eve of the Tuesday of the Holy Pascha. May its blessings be with us all. Amen. O Lord, make us worthy to pray thankfully. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. Kyrie eleison, thog tetigum, nembio, nembesmon, nembia.
Mai shine min Emmanuel ben noti ben oro. Thok teti gom nembi o nembis mon nembi. Mai shine min pashoi sisos be Christos. Thok teti gom nembi o nembis mon nembi. Mai shine min. Tok teti gom nempi o nempis mo nempi amahi shine min Emmanuel ben noti ben oro. Tok teti gom nempi o nempis mo nempi mahi shine min pashoi sisos pe Christos. Tok teti gom nempi o nempis mo nempi mahi shine amin.
Tok teti gom nempio, nempis mo nempia, mai shine min Emmanuel ben noti ben oro. Tok teti gom nempio, επισμόνε ποιαμάι σάινε μην πεσόησι Ιησούς πια Χριστός δοκτετικόμ νεπιόουν επισμόνε ποιαμάι σάινε αμήν
Doctetigom nempion empismon empiamahi shaine amin Emmanuel ben noti ben oro Doctetigom nempion empismon empiamahi shaine amin Pashois Iisos pe Christos Doctetigom nempismon empiamahi shaine amin
Docteticum nepion epismon epiamai shine amin Emmanuel ben noti ben oro Docteticum nepion epismon epiamai shine amin Pashois Iisos pia Christos Docteticum nepion epismon epiamai shine amin
Doctetigom nempion empismon empiamahi shaine amin Emmanuel ben noti ben oro Doctetigom nempion empismon empiamahi shaine amin Pashois Iisos Doctetigom nempion empismon empiamahi shaine amin
Docteticum nempion epismon empiamai shine amin Emmanuel ben noti ben oro Docteticum nempion epismon empiamai shine amin Pashois Iisos pia Christos Docteticum nempion epismon empiamai shine amin
Doctetigom nempion empismon empiamahi shaine amin Emmanuel ben noti ben oro Doctetigom nempion empismon empiamahi shaine amin Pashois Iisos pe Christos Doctetigom nempion empismon empiamahi shaine amin
Docteticum nempion epismon empiamai shine amin Emmanuel ben noti ben oro Docteticum nempion epismon empiamai shine amin Pashois Iisos pia Christos Docteticum nempion epismon empiamai shine amin
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Salmos tuam. Avint Panoti. Helpiserov. Entof et evolha. faz en te Efestorter.
Και το κατάξια την ημάς της ακρά ασέως το Άγιο Ευαγγέλιο, Κύριον και των Θεών εμών, ή κατεύσομεν σοφία, ορθιακόσομεν το Άγιο
Ο αναγνώσισε volgen pi evangelion ethOem katalukan ageo
Doxasi Kyrie.
From the Psalms of our teacher David, the prophet and king, may his blessing be us all, amen. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him I will trust. Surely He shall deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the perilous pestilence.
Alleluia.
The Lord have pity and mercy on us, and make us worthy to listen to your holy gospel. A chapter from the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, the evangelist and pure disciple. May his blessing
Be with us all.
But take heed to yourselves, lest your hearts be weighed down with carousing, drunkenness, and cares of this life, and that day come on you unexpectedly. For it will come as a snare on all those who dwell on the face of the whole earth. Watch therefore, and pray always that you may be counted worthy to escape all these things that will come to pass, and to stand before the Son of Man. And in the daytime he was teaching in the temple, but at night he went out and stayed on the mountain called Olivet. Then early in the morning all the people came to him in the temple to hear him.
Glory to you,
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God, Amen. The prophecy of the 9th hour of the eve of the Tuesday of the Holy Pascha. May its blessings be with us all. Amen.
Sow for yourselves righteousness, reap in mercy, break up your fallow ground, for it is time to seek the Lord, till he comes and rains righteousness on you. You have plowed wickedness, you have reaped iniquity, you have eaten the fruit of lies, because you trusted in your own way, in the multitude of your mighty men. Therefore tumult shall arise among your people, and all your fortress shall be plundered. As Shalom plundered Beth Arbel in the day of battle, a mother dashed in pieces upon her children. Thus it shall be done to you, O Bethel, because of your great wickedness. At dawn the king of Israel shall be cut off utterly. When Israel was a child, I loved him, and out of Egypt I called my son. As they called them, so they went from them. They sacrificed to the Baals and burned incense to carved images.
Choice nine, alleluia, Chenevran, Meviot, Nemepshirin, and Bebnevmath, Oab, Unotian, Otamin, Doxabatri, Ke Eo, Ke Ageo, Bnevmati, Kenin, Ke Ai, Ke Estosion, Astonion, on Amin. The praise of the 9th hour of the eve of the Tuesday of the Holy Pascha, may its blessings be with us all. Amen. O Lord, make us worthy to pray thankfully. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever and ever. Amen. Kyrie eleison, thoctetigom, nembio,
nembizmonem biamahi shainem inimenu il penoti benoro thoctetigom nembio nembizmonem biamahi shainem in bashois Isos bechrestos thoctetigom nembio nembizmonem biamahi shainem
nempio nempis nempia mai shine min manu infinoti pen oro Log tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine mi peshoisi sos pia Christos Log tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine mi
Thok tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine min Emmanuel ben noti oro thok tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine min pashoisi sos be Christos Thok tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine min
Log tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine min manu infinoti pen oro Log tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine mi peshoisi sos pia Christos Log tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine mi
Thok tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine min Emmanuel ben noti ben oro Thok tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine min pashoisi sos be Christos Thok tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine min
Log tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine min manu infinoti pen oro Log tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine mi peshoisi sos pia Christos Log tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine mi
Thok tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine min Emmanuel ben oro Thok tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine min choisi sos be Christos Thok tetigom nempio nempis nempia shine min
Log tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine min manu infinoti pen oro Log tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine mi peshoisi sos pia Christos Log tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine mi
Thok tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine min Manuel ben noti ben oro Thok tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine min pashoisi sos be Christos Thok tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine min
Log tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine min manu infinoti pen oro Log tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine min peshoisi sos pia Christos Log tetigom nempio nempis nempia mai shine mi
To you is the power and glory and blessing and honor forever. Amen. Emmanuel, our God and our King. To you is the power and glory and blessing and honor forever. Amen, my Lord Jesus Christ. To you is the power and glory and blessing
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory for ever and ever. Amen.
Salmos toda avin efsho ois nage so et she Entenieth nos evol. Efna asho Entehan laos. Oh, 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 Nash, oh, 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 empe soet shini, enteni archon epso et shini ze ethnof em epsho. Oh, ois shop shine. Nay, Emok ek and tepef hit Jego ushago.
Tesa gracios to agio evangelio, Kyrion και τον Θεόν εμών, εκατεύσομεν σοφία ορθέα κόσομεν, το Άγιο Ευαγγέλιο.
O anagnosis volgen pi evangelion ethoeb katalokan ageo.
Efsajize afti hoerof engeo epsari seos hopos entefoum chatot o et favshe evon aforo tepifa ariseos zetafnaf af sho iri o shtim evangelionet oev.
From the Psalms of our teacher David, the prophet and king, may his blessings be with us all. Amen. The Lord brings counsel of the nations to nothing. He makes the plans of the peoples of no effect. The counsel of the Lord stands forever, the plans of his heart to all generations.
Alleluia.
O Lord, have pity and mercy on us and make us worthy to listen to your holy gospel. A chapter from the Holy Gospel according to St. Luke, the evangelist, apostle, and pure disciple. May his blessings be with us all. Amen. And as he spoke, a certain Pharisee asked him to dine with him. So he went in and sat down to eat. When the Pharisee saw it, he marveled that he had not first washed before dinner. Then the Lord said to him, Now you Pharisees make the outside of the cup and dish clean, but your inward part is full of greed and wickedness. Foolish ones! Did not he who made the outside make the inside also? But rather give alms of such things as you have, then indeed all things are clean to you. But woe to you, Pharisees! For you tithe mint and rue and all manner of herbs, and pass by justice and the love of God. These you ought to have done, without leaving the others undone. Woe to you, Pharisees! For you love the best seats in the synagogues and greetings in the marketplaces. Woe to you, scribes, Pharisees, hypocrites! For you are like graves which are not seen, and men who walk over them are not aware of them. Then one of the lawyers answered and said to him, Teacher, by saying these things, you reproach us also. And he said, Woe to you also, lawyers, for you load men with burdens hard to bear, and you yourselves do not touch the burdens with one of your fingers. Woe to you, for you build the tombs of the prophets, and your fathers killed them. In fact, you bear witness that you approve the deeds of your fathers, for they indeed killed them, and you build their tombs. Therefore, the wisdom of God also said, I will send them prophets and apostles, and some of them they will kill and persecute, that the blood of all the prophets which was shed from the foundation of the world may be required of this generation, from the blood of Abel to the blood of Zechariah, who perished between the altar and the temple. Yes, I say to you, it shall be required of this generation. Woe to you, lawyers, for you have taken away the key of knowledge. You did not enter in yourselves, and those who were entering in you hindered.
Glory to you, Lord.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the one God. Amen. The prophecy of the 11th hour of the Tuesday eve of the Holy Pascha. May its blessings be with us all. Amen.
Seek the Lord and live, lest he break out like fire in the house of Joseph and devour it, with no one to quench it in Bethel. You who turn justice to wormwood and lay righteousness to rest in the earth. He made the Pleiades and Orion. He turns the shadow of death into morning and makes the dark night dark as night. He calls for the waters of the sea and pours them out on the face of the earth. The Lord is his name. He rains ruin upon the strong, so that fury comes upon the fortress. They hate the one who rebukes in the gate, and they abhor the one who speaks uprightly. Therefore, because you tread down the poor and take grain taxes from him, though you have built houses of hewn stone, yet you shall not dwell in them. You have planted pleasant vineyards, but you shall not drink wine from them. For I know your manifold transgressions and your mighty sins, afflicting the just and taking bribes, diverting the poor from justice at the gate. Therefore the prudent keep silent at that time, for it is an evil time. Seek good and not evil, that you may live. So the Lord God of hosts will be with you, as you have spoken. Glory be to the Holy Trinity, the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit.
Choice nine, alleluia, chenevran, meviot, nemepshirin, bebnevmath, oeb, unutin, o tamin, doxabatri, ke eo, ke ageo, bnevmati, kenin, ke ai, ke estosion, astonionon, amin. The praise of the 11th hour of the eve of the Tuesday of the Holy Pascha, may its blessings be with us all. Amen. O Lord, make us worthy to pray thankfully. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever and ever. Amen. Kyrie eleison, thok tetigom,
نبيون بزمون بيا ما شاين نامين مانويل بن نوتي بن اورو ثوك تتي قوم نبيون بزمون بيا ما شاين نامين بشوي سيسوس بخريستوس ثوك تتي قوم نبيون بزمون بيا ما شاين نامين
Tetikom nepion epismon epia mai shine amin manu infinoti pen oro. Tetikom nepion epismon epia mai shine amin rejoice Isos per Christos. Tetikom nepion epismon epia mai shine amin.
Teti gom nempi o nempis monem via mahi shai Nemin Emmanuel ben noti ben oro Thok teti gom nempi o nempis monem via mahi shai Pashoi si sos pe Christos Thok teti gom nempi o nempis monem via mahi shai Nemin
Thok teti gom nempio nempis monem via mai shine min Emmanuel pen noti pen oro Thok teti gom nempio nempis monem via mai shine mi peshoi si sos pia Christos Thok teti gom nempio nempis monem via mai shine min
Thok teti gom nempi o nempis monem via mahi shai Nemin Emmanuel ben noti ben oro Thok teti gom nempi o nempis monem via mahi shai Nemin bashoi si sos pe Christos Thok teti gom nempi o nempis monem via mahi shai Nemin
Thok teti gom nempio nempis monem via mai shine min Emmanuel pen noti pen oro Thok teti gom nempio nempis monem via mai shine min peshoi si sos Thok teti gom nempio nempis monem via mai shine min
Thok teti gom nempi o nempis monem via mahi shai Nemin Emmanuel ben noti ben oro Thok teti gom nempi o nempis monem via mahi shai Nemin pashoi si sos pe Christos Thok teti gom o nempis monem via mahi shai Nemin
Thok teti gom nempio nempis monem via mai shine min Emmanuel pen noti pen oro Thok teti gom nempio nempis monem via mai shine min peshoi si sos pia Christos Thok teti gom nempio nempis monem via mai shine min
Thok teti gom nempi o nempis monem via mahi Nemin Emmanuel ben noti ben oro Thok teti gom nempi o nempis monem via shai Nemin bashoi si sos pe Christos Thok teti gom nempi o nempis monem via mahi shai Nemin
Thok teti gom nempio nempis monem via mai shine min Emmanuel pen noti pen oro Thok teti gom nempio nempis monem via mai shine min peshoi si sos pia Christos Thok teti gom nempio nempis monem via mai shine min
Thok teti gom nempi o nempi esmonem via mahi shaine amin Emmanuel ben noti ben oro Thok teti gom nempi o nempi esmonempi amahi shaine amin pashoi si sos echerestos Thok teti gom nempi o nempi esmonem pi amahi shaine ami
To you is the power and glory and blessing and honor forever. Amen. Emmanuel, our God and our King. To you is the power and blessing and honor forever. Amen. My Lord Jesus Christ, to you is the power and glory and blessing and honor forever. Amen.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever and ever. Amen.
Salmos tuodam avint etam amshin ogam am sure. Emma avengenefli. Emshor. Mithre pesserai Efran ememshois.
So we're all going to sing Ke Iberto all together, all of us here and all of us at home who are joining us today. I hope that's the right camera. Can I just remind you of the words of Ke Iberto? We beseech our Lord and God that we may be worthy to hear the holy and divine gospel. In wisdom, let us attend to the holy gospel. These words have a very special meaning for us this year. They remind us that listening to the words of the gospel are not to be taken for granted. Things could have been an awfully lot worse. We could have not been able to have any Pascha services at all. Or we could have had this whole pandemic happen during a time when we don't have the internet and we don't have YouTube or any of those things. So this is a reminder to us to be really grateful and to appreciate and to show our appreciation by attending to the words of the Holy Gospel and praying for the spirit of wisdom to fill our ears and our hearts and our minds, to help us to take the words of the Gospel into ourselves and into our lives and to live by them. So I hope you're all standing up over there. I'm just looking to make sure you all are and ready to raise your voices and join with us here. gnosis volgen bi evangelion ethoeb kata markon ageo.
From the Psalms of our teacher David, the prophet and king, may his blessing be with us all. Amen. Where the tribes go up, the tribes of the Lord, to the testimony of Israel, to give thanks to the name of the Lord. O Lord, have pity and mercy on us, and make us worthy to listen to your holy gospel. A chapter from the Holy Gospel according to Saint Mark, the evangelist and pure disciple. May his blessings
Be with us all.
But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Take heed, watch and pray, for you do not know when the time is. It is like a man going to a far country, who left his house and gave authority to his servants and to each his work, and commanded the doorkeeper to watch therefore, for you do not know when the master of the house is coming, in the evening, at midnight, at the crowing of the rooster, or in the morning, lest coming suddenly he find you sleeping. And what I say to you, I say to all, watch. After 2 days it was the Passover, and the feast of the unleavened bread. And the chief priests and scribes sought how they might take him by trickery and put him to death. But they said, not during the feast, lest there be an uproar of the people.
Glory to you, Lord.
In the name of the Trinity. the Son,
and the Holy Spirit.
Hail to you, O Mary.
The good
Who gave birth
to the incarnated Word.
in the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, the one God. Amen. The commentary of the first hour of the Tuesday eve of the Holy Pascha, may its blessings be with us all. Amen.
Our Saviour walked with his disciples to Jerusalem. One of the multitude asked him, Lord, are there a few that are saved? Our Saviour answered, Strive to enter in the narrow gate, lest you come and knock, saying, O Lord, open for us. And I shall answer, I do not know you. Depart from me, you evildoers, where there is weeping and gnashing of teeth. Many Gentiles from east and west will rest on Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's bosom in the kingdom of heaven. But you will be cast away and will be dominated by your sins. Therefore repent, and your sins will be forgiven.
Christ our Saviour came and suffered for us, that he may save us through his suffering.
Let us glorify and exalt his name according to his great mercy.
The commentary of the third hour.
At that day, some people came and told Jesus to depart from Jerusalem, for Herod is planning to kill him. Jesus replied, Go and tell that fox that I cast out devils, and cure today and tomorrow, and the third day shall be perfected. For it is written that no prophet will be perished outside of Jerusalem. O Jerusalem, Jerusalem, which kills and stones prophets, how often I wanted to gather your children, and you refused. Therefore your house will be destroyed forever. You shall not see me until the time comes, and you shall say, Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord.
Christ our Saviour came and suffered for us, that he may save us through his suffering.
Let us glorify and exalt his name according to his great mercy.
The commentary of the sixth hour.
Our Lord Christ, as a kind physician, offers a free cure for our ailments. He advised that excessive eating will overburden our hearts and weaken our bodies. Worldly cares cause many evils and deviate man from the fear of God and the way of salvation. As results, the devil will choke him and prevent him from his salvation, and put him to death like a prey in a trap. Therefore watch and bring forth fruit fit for repentance and righteousness, that you can stand in front of the Saviour Jesus Christ in the day of judgment. The last days of Jesus during the daytime would be in the temple teaching, but would spend the night on the Mount of Olives. From early morning the people would gather around him in the temple to listen to his useful teachings. Those who heard him were eager to come again to listen and drink from the living water, as it is written that his word is everlasting food for all believers.
Christ our Saviour came and suffered for us, that he may save us through his suffering.
Let us glorify and exalt his name according to his great mercy.
The commentary of the ninth hour.
Listen to our merciful, kind, and compassionate Lord, commanding us to be pure in our hearts as well as our bodies. When the Pharisees who invited him were amazed that Jesus ate without washing his hands, they criticized him. Jesus, knowing their thoughts, told them, Pharisees care too much about your outside appearance, while inside yourselves you are filled with sin and wickedness. Give alms and be just, and you will be purified. Let us be merciful towards one another. Then we'll have pure hearts, minds, and bodies.
Christ our Saviour came and suffered for us, that he may save us through his suffering.
Let us glorify and exalt his name according to his great mercy.
And the commentary of the 11th hour.
O God, who knows about everything, about all generations before they were formed, Listen to him, telling us openly that nobody knows about the time and the hour of his second coming, not even the angels nor the Son of Man, except the Father. Watch and pray constantly, for you do not know when the time is, lest he comes suddenly and finds you sleeping. Beware from all of the devil's temptations and keep yourselves holy.
Christ our Saviour came and suffered for us that he may save us through his suffering.
Let us glorify and exalt his name according to his great mercy.
In the name of the Father, and the Son, and the Holy Spirit, one God. Amen.
Okay. Hey everyone. Hope everyone's doing well at home as well. Today we're going to look at 5 points from the Holy Monday of the Pascha. And as a precursor to this, I just want to briefly touch on today's Gospels, in particular about the fig tree that Christ cursed. And I didn't know this, but I was told this on a tour I was doing on a recent holiday where we went out foraging in a bush, and there was a guide who was showing us the different fruits that you can eat from trees. And there's a handful that I didn't know that you can actually take berries from and eat. Just make sure you don't pick the poisonous ones, because obviously you could be in a lot of pain after a while. But one thing he did mention was that the fig tree is actually a flower that doesn't blossom externally, but it blossoms internally. And so I want to take today's focus and look at, I guess, this point in time where we get the opportunity to reflect and to go internally into our spiritual life and take some blessings from this beautiful week. So there's 5 areas that we're going to cover today, or we're going to look at. The first one is to repent and return to him. And I've got these stories and I'm going to share with you as we go through these 5 points. So I'm not going to bore you too much of information, but it will be 5 short stories that kind of capture what we're trying to look at here today. The second one is embrace and realize his love. The third one is obey him, the instructor. The fourth one is avoiding hypocrisy. And the fifth one is be prepared for him and stay watchful. So the first one is to repent and return to him. And the focus of that area is the verse out of Luke 23:30, which is, strive to enter through the narrow gate, for many, I say to you, will seek to enter and will not be able to. And I was thinking of what story to share to bring this together, or this point together. And I remembered a very, very beautiful story about God when he ordered one of his angels to go down to earth and to bring back the most precious thing. So the angel takes off and he goes down to earth and he finds a soldier in battle, and the soldier is wounded, but he's fighting zealously for his country. And just as about a drop of blood was to hit the earth, the angel took out its finger and captured that piece of blood and returned it to God and said, God, look what I've got. I've got a drop of blood from a soldier who was fighting zealously for his country. And God said, surely this is precious, but it is not the most precious gift. So the angel returns down to earth and he sees a person laboring at church, wiping the floor with a mop and, doing their cleaning duties. And it was a really hot day and that person's really struggling and they're wiping the floor of the church. And just as about a drop of sweat was to hit the ground, the angel captures it with his finger and he returns it to God and says, God, I've got the drop of a sweat of a person working laboriously in your church. Surely this is precious. And God looks at him and says, yes, this is a precious thing, but it is not the most precious thing on earth. So the angel returns a third time down to earth. And this time he sees a person kneeling down in church, truly repenting. And that person's really in deep sorrow for the sins that he's committed. And as he's in his deep sorrow, he's weeping for his sins. And as he's weeping, a drop of tears was about to hit the ground, and the angel takes out his finger and he captures a tear. And he returns it to God and says, God, surely I've captured the most precious thing. And God says to him, surely this is the most precious thing to me, a tear of repentance. So I want us to think about some of these, or some of the ways that we can be repentant in this period. It's interesting that this period of time that we're going through is a moment for us to really stop and reflect. In particular, Passion Week, which is already a blessing, but the added bonus of having more time to think and more time to reflect on our life. And this is something that is not easy, but it takes patience and it takes perseverance to achieve it. You know, there was this boy who was living a prodigal life, and a lot of the people around him were commenting, have you realized so-and-so is changing? And when that person heard about people talking and saying, that you're changing so much, he actually said to the person, tell the person who's saying that about me that I'm not changing, I'm just going back to who I originally was. And so that's the idea of repentance, to go back to who God originally created us to be. And it is also evident in Christ's message to us on earth when he returned from 40 days in the wilderness, where he said, repent, for the kingdom of God is at hand. It was such a big theme in Christ's message for us. In this period, I think it's important to really allow our hearts to open up to God and let God to touch our hearts with that gentleness that really takes in his word. It is a process, but with true humility and perseverance, we can definitely come to the repentance that God wants us to realize. The second one, embrace and realize his love. There's a verse out of Jeremiah that I really love, and I'll also share a story with you, so 5 stories coming, don't worry. It says, for I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. There was a couple of months ago, I was driving to work, and it was an overcast day. It was quite dark, clouds kind of covering the sun, and it was a bit drizzly. There was a little bit of rain, and I was in a little bit of a lull, like a bit of a lull. I guess some things going through my mind, and I didn't feel that God was present. I just felt God had kind of taken a step back at that point. And the whole way to work, I was thinking to myself, why God? Why do I feel that you're not there? I'm kind of a little bit, down at the moment, and I feel like, I can't really rely on you. And on my way to school, there's this one road. It's about 1 kilometer long, and it's like a strip. Like imagine like Church Street or Pitt Street or something like that, but in a kind of residential area. And at the end of that street is a church where our school is. So our school's got a main church at the front, and then it's got the school behind it. And as I turned left to go to school, in amongst the dark clouds was this cross that was shining brightly. And at that point, I was doubting. I was saying, why is God distant? Where is his love? I can't feel his closeness to me. And at that point that thought was going through my head, I had taken the left-hand turn to go into work, and that's when the image of the cross was there. And the beautiful thing about it was that it was a light with a very bright kind of fluorescent light, similar to the ones we have at church. And I just felt comforted that, the point where you feel that God isn't there for you is the point where he was showing me that I am here, I'm present. You may think that I'm distant, but I'm forever in your life. And I want you to realize that my love for you is always enduring. I know the plans I have for you, he says, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not harm you. Plans to give you a hope and a future. So in this time, we need to embrace this, and we need to focus that God's love is always there for us. No matter what we're going through, no matter what's happening in our lives, no matter what external factors are bringing us down, that his love is always there for us. Point number 3, obey him, the instructor. And the focus verse for this one is from Luke 21:34-38. But take heed for your souls, lest your hearts be weighed down with carousing, drunkenness, and cares of this life. This is a story that I heard a couple of years ago when Abuna Matthew was with us at this church. And I actually called him today to refresh my memory about the story, which he happily answered my phone call. And I was like, shouldn't you, maybe is it time for your phones to be switched off? But he thankfully answered my phone call and he shared the story with me. So I thought it was appropriate to share it with you tonight. So this is a story about a lawyer who was on his way home. And as he was driving home, there was a car that had toppled into a tree and had caught a light on fire. So his first instinct was to stop the car and get down and see if the person in his car is okay. So as he gets down, he realizes that there's a man stuck inside the car and the car's upside down. So he runs over to the man and he pulls him out of the car just before it's about to explode. And he's dragging him to safety, and as he's dragging him to safety, boom, there's a big explosion. And the man's unconscious and he doesn't know what's happening at that point. So the lawyer calls the ambulance and says, look, I've just saved the person from a car crash. I need you to come and give him medical attention. So the ambulance come and they take him to hospital. And after one day, the man wakes up from being unconscious. And the lawyer who saved him was there by his side. And he says to him, what happened? And so the lawyer goes on to explain that, you were in a crash and the car was on fire and I pulled you out of the car. So the lawyer and the man established a really strong friendship from that point. And they kept in touch and they were conversating every now and then. And the man who was saved looked at him as his savior. That was the way that he addressed him. You are my savior. After some years, they started to lose contact with each other. And the man who was in the accident started to kind of steer away from the righteous path. And he got involved in drinking, distributing drugs, etc. So after some time, the police caught onto him and he was put into trial for the drug taking and the drug trafficking that he was doing. And he finally gets to the courtroom, and in the courtroom is his friend, the Savior. And he says to his lawyer, he goes, I've got this one, don't worry, that's my friend who saved me. So he says to him, it's me, your friend, don't you remember me, the one that you saved? Can you do that again? Can you save me today? And the lawyer looks at him and he says, yes, that day I was your savior, but today I am your judge. And the law is the law, and I cannot change that. And he was weighed with the consequences for his drug trafficking. This week is a beautiful week because we look to our Savior for hope, and we look to our Savior for bringing us into his embrace. And I think the beautiful thing about this week is that we do remember that we are saved. And we do, unfortunately, the reality that we come to in the end is that we will be in front of the judge, who is the just judge, and we will be assessed for what our life is like on earth. So may we take an example from this story that we live a life that is righteous, so when we do come to face the just judge, that we are seen as righteous. The fourth one, avoid hypocrisy. And this verse comes from Luke 11:37-52. Now you Pharisees, make the outside of the cup and dish clean, but your inward part is full of greed and wickedness. Now I actually don't have a story about hypocrisy, but I have a story about, or a message about how to live a faithful and righteous life. And hopefully that will dull out what a hypocrite looks like and make us focus on something that is better. So this is a story of a boy traveling on a pilgrimage in Spain, and he meets another traveler who's living a prodigal life. And they become friends and they exchange details. And after a while, the boy that was living the prodigal life contacts the friend when he's back home and says, "Look, I'm coming to your country. Is it possible if I stay with you for a couple of weeks until I sort myself out?" So the boy who was on the pilgrimage says, "Of course, my home is always open for you." So the boy goes to his friend's house, and he starts living with them for 2 weeks. And in that 2 weeks, he blends in with what the family's doing. The family would pray before they eat, so the boy would just join in prayer. The friend would, serve his brothers and sisters, so the boy that was with them would help out and serve his brothers and sisters. He would pray at night, so the boy would sit with him quietly and wait till he finished prayer. And after 2 weeks of living with this family, the boy was due to go to his next chapter of his journey. And as he was leaving, his friend gave him a Bible. And he said, "I want you to have this, read it and, make something of it." 6 months goes by, and they kind of intermittently keep in contact with each other. And as he's returning to his hometown, he says to his friend, "Thank you so much for giving me that Bible. Thank you so much." And his friend's happy that the Bible that he left his friend actually was, he was using it. And he says, "I must say, everything that I read in the Bible, I witnessed in your household for those 2 weeks." And the person who gave him the Bible was, just like, he was astonished. He's like, "What do you mean? Like, I was just living a normal life in my household and doing my normal thing." But he's like, "Yeah, but the things that I was reading in the Bible, love your Lord with all your heart, all your mind, all your strength. He who slaps you on the right cheek, turn him your left." All these things were coming to life. And so this boy that had witnessed or been part of that family for 2 weeks was reading a living Bible. And I feel that that's what God and Christ want us to be. They want us to be the living example of what hypocrisy is not. And I feel this is why Jesus was quite harsh on the Pharisees, because he wanted them to see something that was not done for people to look at and praise them, but it was something that was done because of the love of God, because they felt that is something that they should do honestly and sincerely. And I love this quote by Pope Shenouda: "The world sees in our conduct, in our behavior, the proof that we are the real children of God." Okay, story number 5, or point number 5. Be prepared for him and stay watchful. And this verse out of Mark 13:32 says the following: "But of that day and hour no one knows, not even the angels in heaven, nor the Son, but only the Father. Take heed, watch and pray, for you do not know when the time is." How appropriate it is for us to focus on this verse in this time and think about what it would be if this was the time where Christ would return. And I think there's some questions that we need to ask ourselves in terms of, are we ready to accept Christ in our life? Are we ready to see him? Are we ready to meet the beautiful creator of the world? I'd hate for us to feel like we were the 5 foolish virgins who were knocking at the door at the end of the 12th hour, saying, "Let us in," and Christ saying, "Sorry, I do not know you." And I want to focus on a part of our life that really helps us develop this watchfulness. And I feel it has a lot to do with our attitude. So this is another story. That's a true story. For those of you that don't know, I'm a school teacher, so I come into contact with a lot of young kids who have big dreams and want to make something for themselves. And this is not this story doesn't necessarily have a happy ending, but it helps put things into perspective for us. This is a story of a boy who was in my PDHP class, and he was a very intelligent student. The type of student that you'd ask for an answer and he'd give you something that sounded like something was written out of a university textbook. At the end of year 11, or the beginning of year 12, he was offered a university scholarship and early admittance into university. And at that point, all of his grades started to drop. So prior to or pre-university, the early acceptance, this guy was like band 6, acing everything, really doing well. By the time he got the early acceptance, he started to drop and his grades started to decrease. And I used to say to him, Eli, come on, you need to pull your weight here, I know you've got early acceptance, but you need to really, continue. Like, your attitude was great. What's going on, Let's go, come on. Anyway, he ended up finishing the year with a really poor mark because he had early acceptance into university. A year passes and I get in contact with him and I said, so, what ended up happening? And he said, yeah, so university didn't work out too well. I said, why, what happened? He said, yeah, I started failing all of my subjects. And in the back of my mind, I started to think, is it because his attitude started to drop in that final year? Maybe he wasn't reinforcing the skills that he needed to continue on and be successful at university. And in a way, that's similar to what our life is like here on earth. God doesn't want us just to repent once and think that we have made it. God wants us to continually repent. He wants us to continually stay watchful. Attitude is everything towards God. I'll leave you with one final thing that comes back to our fig tree. Unlike the fig tree which Christ passed and cursed because of its deceiving leaves and failure to produce fruit, may we be the fig tree that Christ passes and bears fruit. May we be like a fig tree which has a sweet flavor and a fruit full of goodness. May we blossom rightfully in every season and be acknowledged by Christ as a remedy for hunger. And glory be to God forever. Amen.
Christos en sotir.
Af iaf bemka
Hinach nefem kav.
entef emon
Arenti unaf.
tenechisi empeveran
Jeafero onai limen. We ask and entreat you, O Lord our God, the Father Almighty, and the only Holy Begotten Son, the Creator and Benefactor of all, and the Holy Spirit, the Life-Giver, before whom kneels down every creature in heaven and on earth. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Kyrie eleison.
For the sake of the perfect peace and the unity of all the churches in the world, and the monasteries and all the holy places and their dwellers and keepers, O God, have pity on your creation and save us from all evil. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Lord, have mercy.
You who prepared for the life of man before his creation and made all things with your wisdom, and embellished the sky with stars and the earth with vegetation and trees and vineyards, and the valleys with shrubs and roses. You now, O our King, accept unto you the prayers of your servants standing between your holy hands, saying, We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Kyrie eleison.
O great and holy God, who created man according to your image and to your likeness, and gave him a live and reasoning soul, have mercy, O Lord, on your creation which you have created, and have compassion on us, and bestow upon us your mercy from the loftiness of your holiness and your many mansions. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Lord, have mercy.
You who saved your servant, the righteous Noah, from the deluge, he and his children, and their wives, and also the animals, clean and unclean, in order to renew the earth once more, we ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Kyrie eleison.
You, the Creator and Benefactor of all, save your people from the deluge of the sea of this world, and preserve them and the animals from harm. As for the birds, give them their food, as you give cattle pasture and feed the baby crows. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Lord, have mercy.
You who were received as a guest by your servant Abraham, the father of the fathers, and sat at his table and blessed his offspring, you now, O our King, accept the prayers of your servants and priests, standing between your holy hands, and have mercy on the world, and save your people from any hardship, and dwell in them and accompany them. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Kyrie eleison.
We ask you, O Lord, to guard us from all evil, and have pity on your creation and all your people, because all people look up unto you, and you give them their food in due time. You're the feeder of everybody, the help of the helpless, and the hope of the hopeless. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Lord, have mercy.
You who looks to the humble with the ever-attentive eyes of your concern, and saved Joseph from his master's wife, and made him king of Egypt and its affairs, and let him pass safely the days of tribulation, till his brethren and his father came to him, and knelt down before him, and took from him wheat, food for their children and their cattle. Likewise, we bow down before you and kneel down before your hand, and thank you, our Creator and Benefactor, for this condition and on every condition and for all conditions, and pray that you save us from all hardships. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Kyrie eleison.
O Lord, the Word of God the Father, the giver of the law, the prophets, and the Old Testament, you're the perfection of them all. Save your people from all tribulations, and arrange their lives according to your good will, and save us from famines and calamities. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Lord, have mercy.
You who supported the people of Israel for 40 years in the desert of Sinai, when they had no houses or stores, you now, my Lord, protect your people and support them, and bless their homes and their stores with your heavenly blessings. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Kyrie eleison.
You who accepted the prayer of Elijah the Tishbite when the sky rained and the earth gave fruit, and blessed the barrel of meal and the cruse of oil in the house of the widow, accept the prayers of your people through the intercessions of your holy saints and prophets. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Lord, have mercy.
O God, have compassion and pity on the world, and bless their crops and stores and the little that they have. Raise the waters of the rivers according to their measures, and give good temper to the winds. Bless the Nile of Egypt this year and every year, and fill the face of the earth with joy, and sustain us, we your people. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Kyrie eleison.
You who accepted the repentance of the people of Nineveh when they all fasted, and accepted the confession of the right thief on the cross, we likewise make us worthy of your acceptance and compassion, in order to cry unto you, saying, Remember us, O Lord, when you come in your glory. Accept the repentance of your servants, their confession, their fasting, their prayers and offerings which are offered on your holy altars as a good incense, and have mercy on them. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Lord, have mercy.
You're the powerful provider, the one who disciplines, the healer, the physician of souls and bodies, who examined his servant Job and healed him from his calamity and recompensed him with more than he had. Have mercy on your people and save them from all calamities, tribulations, and miseries. O you, the supporter of those who trust in you, we ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Kyrie eleison.
O you, Christ our God, the Word of the Father, who made a covenant with his holy disciples, and washed their feet, and made them leaders of believers, and guiding lights of religion, satisfaction for hungry souls, and taught them prayer, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from evil. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Lord, have mercy.
O you, the wonder worker, who fed thousands from the 5 loaves, and raised the dead, and blessed the wedding at Cana of Galilee, you now, O Lord, bless the bread, the oil, the fruits, the honey, the stores, the trades, and the affairs of your servants. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Kyrie eleison.
O Lord, save your people and protect them from all sides with the life-giving sign of your cross. Raise the lot of Christians in all the world and soften the hearts of their rulers towards them, and their hearts with charity toward the poor and the needy brethren, and deliver them from all evil. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Lord, have mercy.
O Lord, who left for us the holy covenant of his body and blood every day on the altar, as bread and wine transformed by your Holy Spirit, and commanded us, saying, do this in remembrance of me. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Kyrie eleison.
O Christ our God, have mercy on your people and the descendants of your apostles. Give blessing to the fruit of all the earth, and make happy the heart of man by multiplying the fruits of wheat, vines, and oil. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Lord, have mercy.
O you who are begotten of the Father and was incarnate from the blameless Virgin Saint Mary in the fullness of time, who said unto his holy apostles, go and preach to the nations and baptize them, and teach them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. And lo, I am with you always, even unto the end of the world. Be also with your people who cry unto you, saying, we ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Kyrie eleison.
You, the forgiver of sins and the giver of good things, forgive the sins of your people and cleanse them from all uncleanliness, and wash them from all deceit, and keep them from bearing false witness and all envy and slander. Take away from their hearts all evil thoughts and unbelief and pride and callousness. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Lord, have mercy.
O Virgin Mother of God, you are the fence of our salvation and the impregnable fortress. Bring to naught the counsels of the adversaries, and turn the afflictions of the servants into joy. Defend our city and fight for the Orthodox kings and rulers, and pray for the peace of the world and the churches. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Kyrie eleison.
You, the God of mercy and compassion, and the Lord of consolation, do not be displeased with us, nor rebuke us for our evil deeds, nor the multitude of our sins. Do not be angry with us, nor let your anger last forever. Hearken, O you, the God of Jacob, and look, O you, the God of our succor. Protect the world from death, scarcity, pestilence, earthquakes, horror, and causes of fear. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Lord, have mercy.
For the sake of our protection under your holy and lofty hands, O God, we ask you to keep for us the life of his holiness, our Pope Abatawadrus II, and his partner in the Apostolic Liturgy, Amber Daniel, institute him in his see for many years and peaceful times. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Kyrie eleison.
O Christ our Lord, we ask of your goodness and your great mercy to keep for us the lives of our fathers, the metropolitans, the bishops, and all the clergy and the laity. Multiply the dignity of the clergy, give purity to the deacons and deaconesses, strength to the elders, understanding to the young, chastity to the virgins, asceticism to the monks and nuns, virtue for those in wedlock, and protection for women. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Lord, have mercy.
Also raise the fallen and return the travellers safely to their homes. Support the widows and the orphans, and give plenty to those in poverty. Those who are in debt, pay their debts for them and forgive them. And those who are in distress, give them comfort. Heal the sick and repose the departed. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Kyrie eleison.
O God of our fathers, the saints, do not forsake us, nor neglect those whom you created with your holy hands. O you, the merciful, who revealed his love for mankind, accept from your mother intercession on our behalf and save us, you, the Saviour of the humble. Do not forget us forever, nor renounce us unto the end, for the sake of your holy name and your beloved Abraham, your servant Isaac, and your saint Jacob. Do not break your covenant with us, nor deprive us of your mercy. We ask you, O Lord, to hear us and have mercy upon us.
Lord, have mercy.
If noti nainan theshonai eron ari onai man gentek met oro.
Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison. Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
Ep oron irini moinanentek, irini semninanentek, irini kanenovi nanevol.
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
Disperse the enemies of the church and fortify her to be unshakable forever.
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie
Emmanuel, our God, is among us now in his Father's glory and the Holy Spirit.
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
May he bless us all and purify our hearts and heal the sicknesses of our souls and bodies.
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison.
Tenoshtem moko bechrestos, nem bekyoten athos, nem piem nev mathoab jeavashkak sotiemon. Amin alleluia doxabatrike ioke agiob nev matike ninkaike stosion astonion. Amin tenoshe volengo emos je open shore Sisos bechrestos fieta vashve pestavros ekechom chem Satanas sapan siten nenishalam Sotiamon onainan min alleluia. Glory to the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, now and forever, and unto the ages of ages. Amen. We proclaim and say, O our Lord Jesus Christ, who was crucified on the cross, crushed Satan under our feet. Save us and have mercy upon us. Kyrie eleison, Kyrie eleison, Kyrie ephlogisson, amin esmo eroi, stimetania coni evulgum viesmo.
Jesus Christ, our true God, who accepted the passion willingly and was crucified on the cross on our behalf, may he bless us with all spiritual blessings, help us, and complete for us the holy Pascha, and show us the happiness of his holy resurrection for many years to come. Through the never-ending intercessions of the blameless Holy Lady, the Theotokos Saint Mary, and all the choirs of angels and archangels, and through the prayers of the patriarchs, the prophets, the apostles, the martyrs, the just and the righteous, the cross-bearers, the ascetics, the confessors, and the anchorites, and through the blessings of the holy Pascha of our good Saviour. May their holy blessings, their grace, their power, their gift, and their love, and their help be with us all forever. Amen. Pie Christos penoti.
Amin aseshoki.
Ib oro ente tihirini moinan ente kirini, semninan ente kirini kanen novinan evol. Jethok tetigom nempi o nempis mo nempi amahi shaine amin. O Lord, make us worthy to pray thankfully. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Through Jesus Christ our Lord, for thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever and ever. Amen. And now the love of God the Father, and the grace of his only begotten Son, Jesus Christ our Lord, and the gift and the communion of the Holy Spirit be with us all. Go in peace, the Lord be with you. And we'll see you 9 o'clock tomorrow morning or 6 p.m. tomorrow evening. God bless.